So I'm 50 today, and I'm like golden generation. So that means the Spice Girls are all 50 now. It means that the Man United golden generation, they're all 50 now, apart from Ryan Giggs, who'd be 51. But Scholes, Neville, Beckham, they're all 50 as well. They're all born 74. So it's like the generation of kids that were supposed to be, the ones who brought us forward are all now 50. And as far as I see it, with the last hope, it's like those who come after us haven't been educated properly. Certainly not educated properly in how to respect each other and how to not project, as to treat everyone as individuals on a case-by-case basis. We were taught to be colourblind and never to judge a book by its cover. Now, that's gone now. Now, apparently, we've all got identities where once upon a time, our identities were like working class, poor, and that's as far as it went. So, in our own way, we were all put into boxes, but we were put into boxes that actually socio-economic, not skin colour, not sexual preference, which to my mind are just total irrelevancies. And if you want to build a community based on that, you're either racist or a pervert. Just saying, it's an alien way of thinking. My generation are likely the least racist. The generation that came before were very racist. And then the generation that come after, because of anti-racism and feminism, have become sexist and racist. Whereas when us who were taught, treat people with respect, treat people as individuals, I think we might have an edge. But we're getting to this stage where we're getting too old to do anything about it. Now, this video is about that story that went around during the week, that went around Twitter, and about what she called Lily Phillips. Certainly not her real name. That would be a porn name. She's a porn star. Like, porn star? Yes. And she set about getting more subscribers for her OnlyFans. And her way of going about doing it was to trick all the feminists on Twitter into feeling sorry for her. There's a little video about with her crocodile tears. As a person who's worthy of absolutely no sympathy, but would treat it like a drug. As I've said to those of you who watch my videos, sympathy is a drug. It's like, be careful who you give sympathy to, because to some people it's a currency. They seek it actively. So in her shocking acts and sympathy seeking, she got, or tricked, all the feminist crackpots on the internet into having something to say, which just further promotes her channel. Because there's nothing actually that would draw men to her. Nothing better than a tearful eye. Oh, feel sorry for this person. Feel sorry for this person. Would take you to her OnlyFans. Like, don't do this. And as well as that, it's like, have you noticed how on the old Twitter, the likes of Julie Bindel, who's just a nightmare, old school feminist writer who used to work for The Guardian, and then they became, basically she's anti-trans, so she's been kicked off The Guardian, but she's still got a lot to say for herself, so now she's a writer at The Spectator, but she's still a feminist crackpot. She puts out there like the 100 men who went with this porn star, and 100 men on one porn star probably happens about twice a year. She's not broken any records. This has been done before. This is not momentous. But her pushing the story into the mainstream and getting it as to where the Daily Mail are writing about you, that's to take it further than anyone else has taken it. That's to be absolutely brazen in your self-promotion. So they're saying, she's traumatized. It's like, really? It's like she's been rattled 1,000 times before she took on that feat for attention and sympathy and to deliberately shock people. It's like feminists have to project onto others. And also, feminists are terrible. They set men up for falls. They set women up for falls. They see that people end up getting ripped off and done over. Because if you think that women are fragile, delicate little butterflies that haven't got agency, who can't make decisions, it's like you're just underestimating them. It's sexist. It's truly sexist to be like, some men have pushed her into that. The men who've, the 100 men, and I'll tell you what, they're victims here, because I can't think of anything less sexy than waiting in line with your dick in your hand to get to get to have a crack at a porn star for 5 minutes. To me, that's like, how did you end up there? And actually, if you look into that, it's like they're kind of a kind of travelling crew, if you like. There's not that many people, men-wise, who can actually perform when it comes to that kind of forced sexual act. In some ways, it's like a gift. It's the Dirk Diggler gift. Not everyone can do it. I used to go to the odd time where my mates would arrange parties, and at these parties they would get these strippers who were, oh God, like rough as you like prostitutes who would put on a show. And then at the end of the show, they'd be like, right, would anyone like to join us? And the number of times that no one at all could actually, no, just couldn't perform. Whether they wanted to or not, they couldn't perform a sex act in front of cameras, onlookers. And then every now and then you'd find somebody it would usually be a surprise that someone you knew could. Remember a chap, he doesn't live in England anymore. He's moved to Spain, whether he's still alive or not. He was a double glazing salesman. It's like that double glazing salesman. He was the only one in this pub where they had one of those parties. It was like a Christmas party, and it was like the football team doing. It was someone else's doing. They all got together and they hired these strippers. And he was the only guy in the place who could get wood. And it's like, he's like a door-to-door salesman who sells double glazing, like one of the trickiest, hardest, most soul-crushing jobs in the world. And he managed to get wood in front of a baying mob. He knocked the shit out of this, like, worn-out old prostitute. And it was, in some ways, it was like, well, there was nothing sexy about it. It was like almost shocking. And it'd be a matter of grinning about it, embarrassed. And then it'd be like, the takeaway from it is, fucking hell, that guy's got some balls, if you like. It's like, no wonder he's got such a brass neck. No wonder he's such a cheeky bastard. It come out in that he could actually manage to get hard on and have sex with a woman in front of 150 people. So there's those who can do that and those who can't. I can't do that. I could never do that. I'd just be just nothing at all. Just be completely flaccid. Nothing going on. But there are those who can. And it's a matter of those who can, they would be travelling, right, from gangbang to gangbang. They'd be like, mate, you again, you're here. It's like, where do you get 100 men? Where do you recruit 100 men? There'd be those in the world who were like agents who've got the phone numbers of all these guys who are able to fly the flag under difficult circumstances. Because that's not you couldn't just drag someone off the street and say, could you? No. They couldn't. And that's not be that something be right with them. It's something be wrong with them. No, something's right about them. They've got boundaries. There are those who don't have boundaries. There are those who can do this, who can just basically nail anything with a hole in it. So it's like, so these men who've come along, they're already damaged goods. They're not victims either. And say porn star who sets this up as a publicity stunt, she is not a victim. She has not been abused. It's like you just don't know that there's some women who are perverts and absolute degenerates who will do such things for money, shamelessly, and be brazen about it, looking for attention, looking for publicity. And what does she get out of it? Oh, well, her OnlyFans page is going to make her a lot of money. A lot of money. And it's like, she's not new to the game. She's a porn star. She's a porn star who's worked out that she can earn more money on OnlyFans than she can be as a porn star. Porn stars can expect to get paid a couple of £1,000 a scene. Well, she can get paid a hell of a lot more than that doing it for herself on OnlyFans. So she's a porn star that's got an OnlyFans, and her videos are particularly high in production value. She makes good porn. So it's like, she's an expert. And then it's a matter of, well, she must have a boss or a pimp or something. It's like, she probably has. She probably works with somebody. It's like she wouldn't have found a way into it on her own. But like I say, people have got agency. People get to do what they want to do. And if you're a woman, you can't really stand in the way of a woman doing whatever she wants. You get called a stalker. You get called obsessive. So it's like, no, to try and stop a woman from doing self-destructive things is a way of getting yourself in trouble with the police even. So no one's going to stop her from doing what she wants to do. So I'm like, she's a predator. She's a villain. She is a brazen whore. And it's like, you can't have sympathy for people like that. And if you do, you are a fool, because you don't know the likes of that person even exist. Now, not so long or around the time of that scandal, I'll just give you an example as to, you see me, I have respect for women, right? I respect women like men. I recognise that men can be potentially dangerous people. I also recognise that women can be just as dangerous or even more dangerous because of the way that they operate. Now, go and check up a load of stories that have broken over in Yorkshire and in the Midlands about a drugs gang, right? Rochdale had the Adam gang that got broken up when one of its members chopped up an innocent with an axe. Well, something similar has happened in Sheffield, where they've had their gang, their phone call drugs gang, called the Frank gang, which is quite clever, isn't it? Because the hotline for drug awareness or drug information is called Call Frank. Well, they've got one called the Frank gang, the Frank line. So you would see it, you go in a pub toilet, even the toilet at the supermarket, and there'd be a number, Frank. So I've got mates called Frank. So when the police come and they find your phone and they go through your contacts when you've got a pocket full of heroin, and it'd be a matter of, yeah, the contact's in there, but it's just down as being Frank. Much in the same way as in Rochdale it was Adam. Well, the Frank gang has been all rounded up and arrested over in Sheffield. How's that happened? Well, from what I can surmise, and there's one or two people I think one person on YouTube has actually been following it. So I looked at the articles, and then someone had made a video about it. And what's happened there with that drugs gang getting wound up is a young prostitute, young woman of about 18 and 19, right? She is getting her heroin off the Frank gang. And through the underground grapevine, she's found out that someone's on their turf. Pakistani lad is on their turf. And she goes and talks to her dealers and says, there's a guy on your turf. He's selling heroin and he's selling cocaine and he's selling weed. What are you going to do about it? And these two lads are like 18, 19, dickheads who are already in the world of drug dealing. They are part of this Frank gang. What are you going to do about it? Oh, well, we'll have to show him who's boss. We'll have to make a statement. We'll have to sort him out. We'll have to get him off our turf. He can't operate on our turf. This is our turf. So young prostitute says, well, if you want, I could lure him somewhere quiet and you can ambush him. Sort him out. Teach him a lesson. So these simps, right? And we're dealing with like a heroin addicted prostitute here. Dangerous mind. A dangerous, dangerous person. But we pretend that we pretend as a society that people like this don't exist and that they're figments of people's imagination. And surely men have done this to her. Men have made her a ruthless person. No. She's just a crackpot. She's personality disordered, histrionic, and when she can't think of anything interesting to say, she makes her own entertainment. So she contacts this new other drug dealer, the guy who's on the turf, and says, I need you to come now and sell me some heroin. I can't really be bothered at the moment. Well, if you come now, I'll give you a free blowjob. Oh, I'm on my way. So he's a simp as well. He's just a mug, an absolute fool. He doesn't know what women are capable of. He's got absolutely no idea what a dangerous person looks like. So he turns up on the promise of a blowjob with a bag of heroin, finds the girl, but who else does he find? 2 members of the Frank gang. They attack him with knives. And they didn't mean to kill him. They meant to hurt him bad, right? And teach him a lesson. Because when you cross the line into murder, suddenly the police, who ignore that kind of activity normally, suddenly they're all over you because someone's done a murder. In exactly the same way as they turned over the Adam gang when that innocent got maimed. Right? So, these 2 dickheads have ended up stabbing this guy 16 times, and he's saying, look, you've hurt me now, I get the message, leave me alone. Right? One of the idiots managed to cut his femoral artery at the back of his leg, and he's bleeding out. And he eventually dies. So it's murder. Whether it's premeditated murder, well, we didn't mean to kill him, but we certainly fucked him up. They killed him. The autopsy was saying he had no blood left in his body. He died of he bled to death because one of these idiots cut the artery at the back of his leg. So, the 2 lads who did it, understanding they were in deep shit and understanding that loads of people saw it, they thought it was quiet, but once there was a big fuss, they thought they were in a quiet place, but they weren't in a quiet place. They were in bushes 20 and 30 yards away from a huge fucking tower block. So that's how smart they are as to where they've led somebody somewhere to ambush him. So everyone's looking out the window. Everyone sees what happens. So they know they're going to get done for it. So they turn themselves into the police and say, nothing. Yeah, we're responsible. But they say nothing. They give no evidence. They don't grasp anyone. But the young prostitute, she gets picked up for it as well. Because she was at the scene. It seems quite obvious as to what's happened here. They've got the guy's phone, the victim, and they've seen this exchange of message where he's offered a blowjob to turn up with the drugs. So they've got her banged to rights as being part of this conspiracy. And she goes to prison. And what does she do when she's in prison? She can't help but mouth off and brag how she got 2 of her boys to do a murder like she's the leader of some gang, like she's some gangster. she starts bragging about it. And she starts mouthing off, I'm going to get away with this scot-free. I've got a diagnosis of borderline personality disorder. I'm going to play the mental illness card and I'm getting away with murder. And she brazenly bragged about it in prison to anyone who would listen. So you mouth off in prison and then the person that you're mouthing off to reports you to the prison authorities, who then reports the police, and it'd be a matter of you just pretty much paid for someone's fucking parole there. You report someone in prison if they had confessed to a crime. That'll go down on your record as you helped us. You were helpful to us in prison on good behaviour. You being a snitch, it's going to mean that you get out on parole. When it comes to the time when we're talking parole, that's going to be a feather in your cap. So they were queuing up in that women's prison to grass her for all mouthing off and bragging she'd done. So she blows the whole case wide open. I got two of my guys, my men, to murder this guy who was on my turf. It's like this week it went to court. She got 18 years in prison. Minimum of 18 years. The two guys who carried out the knife attack, they got the same sentence as she did. But she'd instigated it. She'd come to them with, hey, there's somebody on your turf. She was the one who recruited them to go out and do the murder. She was the person with the plan. She was the person who lured this unsuspecting drug dealer. Because you get it, most drug dealers are actually just guys from the pub. God, I'm from Rochdale. I've known some drug dealers in my time. You know, I have known some drug dealers in my time, both former drug dealers and current drug dealers. And you know what? They're less frightened of the police than they are of other drug dealers. My brother-in-law's sister started dealing up on Langley. Now it's like, if you were from Langley, the notion of the women being victims, harmless, has to be something to do with men. If you were from Langley, right, you'd never have believed that true in your entire life. Now, I'll give you an example of that. Steve Coogan, the famous comedian, he first got famous with two characters called Paul and Pauline Calf, where he used to play brother and sister off Langley, right? Which is Middleton, technically Rochdale, but we don't have any. Middleton's Middleton, it's not Rochdale. They don't claim to be part of Rochdale, and we don't want them. But Steve Coogan, he went to Cardinal Langley. Right, there's two very famous people who went to Cardinal Langley School. Steve Coogan and Paul Scholes. They are the great alumni of Cardinal Langley School. Now, Steve Coogan passed his 11 plus. He's about 8 years older than me or something like that. About nearly 60. He went to Cardinal Langley School when it was a school for boys who passed the 11 plus. And while he was there, the school changed to be an ordinary Catholic comprehensive school. Pauline Calf is based on when kids from Middleton were first allowed to go to that school, is actually based on girls from Langley. Actually, Pauline Calf might actually be based on my brother-in-law's sister. I've had him. I'm after him. I've had him. Absolutely ruthless sexual predator. Pauline Calf, the Steve Coogan character, just type it in, Pauline Calf, and Steve Coogan's one of the best female impersonators in all of comedy. I mean, he even dresses up in drag, and he actually passes almost, doesn't he? When he dresses up as Pauline Calf, he almost passes for a woman, Steve Coogan. And it's a matter of this character is just based on some woman off Langley, some girl off Langley you knew when you were at school, who already talked like that. It's like, where did you get this story, John? It's like, I read autobiographies quite a bit. And with him being a local, but in essence from 5 miles down the road, it's like, oh, I know all these places that he talks about. I used to play football against the school that he went to. You go past his school every time his old school, every time you get a train to Manchester, it's like, we all know where Cardinal Langley School is. And my brother-in-law's sister, she's a slag, right? She's a low-class person. She started off, first of all, like buying all the drugs for her mates, yeah? And in essence, getting a bit of discount and it paying for her drugs. And she'd be skimming some off the top for herself. And then, as her mates started to mouth off to their mates, saying, "Oh, well, get it off so and so, get it off so and so, get it off so and so." Next thing you know, she's moving lots of drugs. Lots of drugs. So what happened to her? Well, in the end, someone drove into her living room. Well, reversed. Let's have it right. Reversed. Reversed into the living room of her house with a transit van. And a bunch of guys burst out the back of it. And they didn't just take her drugs off her and her money. They took the kid's PlayStation. They took the telly. They took the stereo. They took the kitchen equipment. They emptied her house of everything of value. Took her jewellery. Took her clothes. Gave her the message, you don't deal on our turf. Now, the best thing that could have happened to her was that the police got involved, because the police go easy on you. Fucking hell, the police get you more often if you're right in the head and you've got a kind of plan. You actually can get done off the police and actually get to keep the money. Anything you stash, you might get to keep. Any money you've laundered properly, you might get to keep. But when the gangsters come, they take everything from you. They'll take your bank cards and get your fucking PIN number out of you. It's like the worst thing that can possibly happen to a drug dealer is other drug dealers decide to shut them down. This is the unspoken war. This is where you end up when you hear of somebody getting chopped up with machetes and the like, which goes on in Rochdale quite a bit. Happens in Rochdale, happens in Oldham, happens in Manchester, and that's it. This is our turf. You only find out that you're selling drugs on somebody else's turf the day when they come and get you. They come and find you. You're miles better off being busted by the police than you are off other drug dealers. Why did she think she'd get away with it? And what kind of game do you think she'd have played when the police come? Well, I'm mentally ill. I've got a diagnosis of this, I've got a diagnosis of this. Because she has. Yeah? She plays the mental illness card. She is mentally ill. And she's got big health problems as well, by way of always being a big drinker, by always being a big drug user. She's got serious health problems as well. An absolute bullshitter, the likes of which it's like anything that she ever says, you can't really believe it. So she makes a rod for her own back. She is the girl who cried wolf. Yes, there are women like that exist. And they usually stay out of prison. They usually put the finger on somebody else, play the mental illness card, and they get away with it. But in the case of that murder over in Sheffield, didn't. When the police got involved in the brother-in-law's sister's case, what do you think happened? She told a tearful tale of ram-raiding house siege thieves. No mention of drugs, no mention of money, just mention of I've had a home invasion. I'm the victim of a home invasion. She didn't see any repercussions from the law. None. They were on her side. Do you know who did it? Oh no, I couldn't describe any of them. Knows exactly who did it. Knows exactly who to watch out for. Knows exactly what she did wrong. Knows exactly who she messed with. But would play the game. Oh, I'm just a simple woman. I'm just a woman with loads of kids. I'm just Dolly Dimple. I'm just stupid. And also I've got mental health problems and health problems. It's like the feminists of this world would deny that such people exist. And when they do find out somebody like that exists, it's not their fault. They're unaccountable. Completely unaccountable. It has to be some man who's coerced her when no one could coerce her to do anything. I remember I first met her about, it would now be a while since, it'd be about 30 years ago I first met her. And I'm at my nephew's christening and she's sort of coming on to me. And I look at her husband and he's this little skinny, tiny, unassuming simp who's got absolutely no control over what his wife's doing. Whatever she says goes. She's in control. She's in absolute control. She controls that guy 100% completely, and she's got his dick in a jar, in a cupboard, in the bathroom. It's like they try to pretend that there's no such thing as a criminal, perverted, psychopathic woman. We're supposed to, well, no, she's a victim. It must be some man. And it'd be a matter of, as long as our society's geared up like this to give women make women a soft touch, it's a matter of, you'll never get to the bottom of drugs crime. You'll never get to the bottom of the real story of why there's all this trouble. And it's a matter of, because they always give the women a pass. Certainly drugs gangs will be controlled by women. But they never go down for it. So they always say, oh, I've been coerced, I've been used, I was frightened of him. No, you weren't. You were the boss, you were running it. But the society has given you believable lies that you can repeat and always get away with it. So, as someone who knows, I put it out there that Crocodile Tears Lily Phillips is in absolute control. Absolute control. She is the architect of her own destiny and downfall and future. And she should be just held accountable for her actions. This is about like, okay, she's damaged and everyone who's had the dick in her, they were damaged too. It's like, you have to understand there are certain people exist that you like to pretend don't exist, and they cannibalise each other. And as long as they're cannibalising each other and normal people aren't affected by it, let them have at it. They're going to do it anyway. Let them. There's no notion of who's accountable for this. She's accountable for her own actions. But it's like the feminists who are supposedly on her side would deny her agency and treat her as if she's a crippled child. And there's nothing in my mind more sexist than that. You are sexist. If you believe that women always need an advantage, that women need to be coddled, that women need to be endlessly looked after, you're a fool. It's okay to look after your children like that. It's your duty, almost, to be like that with your own kids. But not when you look out into the world and see that some whore has, for attention and ultimately for sympathy, has managed to get it so everybody's talking about her. And when everyone's talking about her, that means money. That idiot's probably got dreams of being on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, or else I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. To try and parlay that notoriety into fame. Because she's a fantasist. And a psychopath. And it's like, no, John, people like that don't exist. It's like, they do at Langley.